Hello everyone at home, we are Adelaide Eternal and we're bringing you the third round of our Eternal tournaments. We have Highlander for you at the moment, and we have in the booth here next to me, Sarven McLinton, I have Beckett Wolfe.
G'day guys!
So we have a nice little matchup here of two, I wouldn't say a mirror because both of the decks are blue, white, red, but they are designed very differently. So on the right, we have Rick Borgas, and he is on what he calls Jeskai Mentor Turns. So this is a blue, white, red deck. So looking at the deck list, it's all about mentor-type creatures. So creatures that capitalize off your non-creature spells or instants and sorceries, whether they get you tokens like Young Pyromancer, or they get you damage like Gutter Snipe, or they get you a big beastie like Thing in the Ice. So that's kind of the whole principle of his deck. And then at the same time, he's also running a whole bunch of typical filtering through his deck, you know, within the typical Gitaxian Probe, Fronda, Preordain, Serum Vision, so that he can activate all of those instant and sorcery triggers. And he's also running a bunch of burn, so he can play that tempo game. And to top it all off, he's running the extra turn spells. So of them, he has Time Walk for 3 points, and he has Temporal Trespass, which is a Delve Time Walk spell, and
Temporal Mastery, I think, is the same card.
Miracle,
pretty
is
much.
it?
Is it? Oh, you're
Miracle,
right.
yeah.
Mastery is the
So,
Miracle.
That's essentially the deck, and looks quite nice. So on the other side, we have Drew. So Drew Carter is on another Jeskai type deck. This one has some more eclectic choices, including a Nahiri package. So his Nahiri Planeswalker alongside Jace, the Mind Sculptor, and Dak Faden can be used to win the game via Blightsteel Colossus. And then we see a few of the more usual suspects, the typical sorceries like Preordain and so on, Gitaxian Probe and the like. But he also has a Cunning Wish package. And in the sideboard, he can fetch out a whole bunch of different removals. So basically any kind of removal that is appropriate for the situation. Removal for creatures, removal from graveyards, counter spells, life gain, removal for artifacts, removal for enchantments, and Noxious Revival to put things back on your library, and Secure the Waste to make a bunch of tokens.
Sounds good, mate. As you say. Let's get down to the games.
So they've just shuffled up. Rick's shuffled up, Drew's shuffling, and I'm not sure who's on the play, but who would you think, aside from the play, who do you think is favoured in this matchup?
Look, I'm going to go with Rick Borgs, because I've played against the Borgmeister a couple times. I think I'm about 50-50 with him against this deck, but I think the deck's sweet. It's really well built. You know, you got bad cards in there like Narset Transcendent. That's not a very good card.
Metamorphose.
But he actually makes it work.
Yeah.
That Narset is actually really, really annoying to play against in his deck. And he gets like Time Walk, Noxious Revival, Narset, and it's a headache to play against. It's really, really good. It can be really explosive.
Plowshares on from Drew. And I can't see the rest of the cards.
I think there's a couple of islands in there. It looks like maybe an Is It Charm or something.
In this kind of matchup, basically they're looking to make sure they have a decent number of lands, and we've got the Charm, Metamorphose, the Time Walk spell, Time Walk Miracle, and a couple of other blue spells. So, yeah, Rick is on the play here. He rolled an 8, and he's just starting off with a nice choice of foil Mirrodin Islands here.
You approve of the land. Bit of design, interior design in you there, Sarven. I notice you comment on the artwork quite a bit.
I do like the correct artworks of things, and I mean, if I could, I would wallpaper my house in Beta Islands, because the Beta purple island is just beautiful. But when you got to go the foil and you can't find the arena foil of the Beta Island, I think that Mirrodin one is quite lovely.
Jav, do you have any of those?
I might find some lying around.
I can't borrow some.
Well, if you play with them on camera, I will definitely comment on them.
Alright, well, if you lend me them, then I can go on camera and I can look jazzy while playing it.
If I build it, they will come. So we have Pluto Delta, really, really lovely to have fetch lands in conjunction with the Sensei's Divining Top. Generally, for those who aren't familiar with the control match, even though this isn't a mirror match, and both of the...
Yeah, I wouldn't call them strictly control. Drew doesn't have a huge amount of card advantage spells. He's got a lot of the usual suspects, but he's also got stuff like balance and a few curveballs in there, and
some surprises.
Yeah,
I
like
think
Mystical
the unknown
Tutor.
is very surprising.
Mystical Tutor is obviously 2 points, very powerful card, but doesn't actually get you card advantage. So I don't know if I'd call him like a traditional control deck.
No, so when we say control in Highlander, it's very loose. It's basically you're playing blue, and usually the control decks actually have some alternate way to win. So, for example, Rick's deck has this tempo plan, and Drew's deck has Nahiri combo plan. So combo kind of creature, big creature out of nowhere plan. So whilst we say control, it's not really the strictest sense. But even that aside, I would say Sensei's Divining Top is one of the best cards in a control mirror here.
Yep, I think so. I think it's pretty good in this matchup. I'm just noticing that Rick's got the Mentor deck, but that's a Mentor Monk token
some
artwork, isn't it?
Some kind of Mentor Monk.
Looks like engineered explosives.
This guy is
Hangerback
Walker. So I don't think Rick would have been expecting that. It's out of nowhere.
No, it's also pretty good against control because, of course, once you kill it, you get a bunch of 1/1s and it can keep getting bigger. So I think it's actually pretty decent in the control matchup. Again, that term control is loose. I wouldn't call Rick's deck strictly control at all. But usually you see this in like a shop deck, don't you?
Yeah, well, as long as as far as it goes right now, Hangerback Walker looks very strange in this deck, but look at it right now. Out of nowhere, we've got this 1/1 that Rick's removal is generally Lightning Bolt and Lightning Helix type effects. It's actually quite immune to Lightning Bolt.
It is, and Rick runs a lot of 1/1s with the Young Pyromancers and the Mentors. I was about to say, Sarv, that the Hangerback, can produce 1/1s and chump block, but I just think it might be outclassed by Mentor tokens and Young Pyromancer because they can produce really an unfair amount of 1/1s. And here we go, we've got the Mentor on the other side, so we're about to
matches up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if Drew wants to be playing Mentor himself instead of that Hangerback because it'll be really interesting to see how they verse each other. Drew's going to have to keep investing mana to keep that Hangerback relevant,
but it doesn't require instants and sorceries to trigger. I mean,
true.
You're preaching to the converted because at the end of the day, in Vintage I play Mentor, and in Legacy I play Young Pyromancer, so I'd choose them over Hangerback Walker any day. But
here we go, a classic move where they let the Mentor resolve and then counter the kill spell on it, and then you get a trigger.
Giving you a monk, which is lovely. And here we'll see the power of Mentor where Rick gets to make tokens without any investment just by playing the game alone. But let's say that if Drew had a Mentor or a Young Pyromancer even for that case, Young Pyromancer over the Hangerback Walker, he would have been able to get a token for free off the Swords of Plowshares and then another token for free off the Gitaxian Probe.
Those tokens also would have had prowess. So yeah, very interesting to see the difference here.
So on the right we have Manamorphose, a Charm, Jeskai Charm, and the Time Walk Miracle spell.
Seems good.
Yeah,
Manamorphose is what I want to see when I've got a Mentor out.
Yep, 0 mana basically, and draw a card.
The other issue with Hangerback is it's got to die for him to get those 1/1s.
Well, this is another situation where he has to use a kill spell, as Izzet Charm, to kill the Monastery Mentor. So second 2 spells have been used to try and kill the Mentor, and in the process, although Rick has lost his Temporal Trespass off the Force of Will, he has produced a Monk token, which is nice to have.
Yeah, that Monk token, you might not think much of it, but it is Prow-S, so it can actually do a bit of work. It can be annoying to bolt it or to try to block and trade with it, because of course they just need to cast something like a Manamorphose before damage and pump it up, and it's sort of makes it a bit difficult for what is really just, a not very... It doesn't cost Rick anything, as Sarv said, so it can cause a few issues for Drew there.
I can't count the number of games that I have won in Vintage off a single monk token that's been made after the mentor has died. It's really, really good. You can just beat over 3 turns or so just whilst playing a game of Magic, and you just end up killing them.
Yeah. So here we have a bit of a scry.
The power of Sensei's Divining Top is huge.
And
here.
what are the modes of the Jeskai? It can burn 4 damage. What else can it do? It can put a creature on the bottom.
Yeah, so Jeskai Charm is quite interesting because
you don't see it much.
No, I've looked at it across the other side of the field whilst playing. Actually, I played Rick in this tournament, and I looked at it across the other side of the field, and representing 4 damage is huge. But it also can put a creature on top of its owner's library, and it can give all your dudes +1/+1 and lifelink until end of turn, which is actually really good against those mid-range matches and aggro matches where you can just bump your life total up huge and trade with a few creatures.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I don't really like Anthems in most decks, but in Rick's deck, it's pretty good. He gets a massive creatures often, but he doesn't really rely on a massive creatures to win, or he doesn't have to overcommit. Nahiri here coming down now. Drew's got a Blight still in the deck, so he does have a win con for it. He only needs 1 win con for it.
Yep. He pluses, so that he basically rummages. So instead of draw discard, he discard draws. And all he needs to do is plus it 1 more time and then minus it, and he can get that Blight Steel out. However, personally, I wouldn't look for... No, I know Rick's list, but if I am against an unknown list, I think getting a Blight Steel out against a deck that could run Swords to Plowshares and Path to Exile is a bit risky.
Yeah, it is. Mind you, it puts the threat out there, and Rick's only got 1 turn to answer it.
Absolutely.
Of course, Nahiri also has the ability to neg to hit enchantments. And I think Rick runs Jeskai
Artifact
Ascendancy.
And tapped creature, tapped artifact. Creature.
So here I think also we're going to see the power of that Monastery Mentor, because this 1/1 monk is going to be a thorn in the side of the Nahiri. It's going to have to keep battling with this 1/1 monk. The 1/1 monk can keep it down, it'll be tough.
I don't know if attacking here is correct, given that you want to protect your Nahiri from that 1/1 monk token, and you're more than happy for Rick to trigger it twice to kill your blocker, because you're going to get 2 1/1 blockers.
Well, you'll get 3. What he could do is block and then activate and tap, and then it goes up to 3, and so then it successfully kills the 1/1. And if it doesn't, if Rick managed to cast 2 spells, which is more than likely, then he gets 3 1/1 blockers.
Yeah, I think if I'm in Rick's shoes, there's no way I'd attack into the untapped 1 mana and untapped little walking guy, especially as much as I want to kill that Nahiri. So I think staying home there with the walker is probably the ideal spot.
Yeah, because Nahiri can get there pretty quick, as we said. It goes up by 2 every turn, and you just sort of...
Here we go, monk coming in, pecking in at Nahiri, and this is where Nahiri goes down, because we have a prowess trigger from that charm, making the monk token a 2/2, and the charm dealing 4 damage to target opponent, which he can redirect to a planeswalker, so it actually kills the Nahiri.
Yes, and again, if it was Mentor, he would have had a trigger from the Probe, the Swords, the Izzet Charm, and the Nahiri, because it's non-creature spells. So that would have been 4 1/1s out.
So many blockers.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I would say, as much as I think Walker is really nice in these control matches where you just get to plus him all the time, make a bunch of dudes, and he's really, really nice, gives you lots of advantage, Mentor is the way to go.
Yeah, agreed. And here again, Hangerback Walker has to decide between attacking, getting in there, and producing the 1/1s, whereas Mentor doesn't have to make that choice. It doesn't have to invest mana. It doesn't have to invest attackers and blockers. It just needs to exist.
Very true.
And it will come. You don't need to invest any effort into it.
And as we saw in that last exchange, prowess can never be underestimated. Single spell, they're basically dealing 6 damage to a planeswalker. And so here we have Jace Vryn's Prodigy that's flipped. For those that aren't familiar with him, he's really, really good in Vintage when you've got so many taxes running around. He's a creature when you cast him. But when he flips over into a planeswalker after looting for a little bit, when he flips over, he can flashback spells for -3 or give -2/-0 to a creature. And here he's going to be -2/-0ing that Hangerback Walker for the rest of the game, I assume.
Yeah, that's right.
Until it's time to pull the trigger
Drew
and
with
flashback
a mystical teachings
charm.
tutor, and I thought he brainstormed into a lot of land, and he's got. I think his hand is land and Azuria's Signet and mystical, and I thought maybe he would have mysticaled in upkeep so as to not draw that other fetch land, and to also get
or holding off on that brainstorm until you get to draw, because then you get to shuffle back more land.
Yeah, that's right. But he's shuffled up now, and he's already drawn, so now he can't draw what he might want to tutor for. What could he be tutoring for?
In this instance, it's very difficult because look at the threats that Rick has. He's got a diverse set of threats. He's got that little 1/1 monk token, which is great, but he's got this Jace, and the Jace is going to sit around and he's just going to generate gradual advantage by every third turn, flashing back a spell from the graveyard, and then occasionally making that Hangerback Walker smaller so the Hangerback Walker can't kill the Jace. It's just an annoying little threat.
As amazing as Cruise is, often a threat or some way of getting card advantage that sticks around is a lot better because...
Like a Jace the Mind Sculptor,
like
which you just drew.
The Mind Sculptor.
That's pretty nice. So was that a Mystical Tutor for the Treasure Cruise? Because keep in mind...
I didn't see Mystical Tutor get played.
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought you were talking about Mystical Tutor.
I was talking about Mystical Tutor. I think Mystical Tutor is in intent, unless I've missed it.
You can't miss the Mystical Tutor. No.
I think you might unsummon here.
And here we go. Spin the top in response to the Jace the Mind Sculptor because you really don't want it to resolve. And unfortunately, Force has already been used.
Here's that monk again, putting in work. I mean, that monk has made so much difference, and that's just one trigger.
You have to unsummon the
monk. Killed the Nahiri, and now he's causing the Jace to be forced to unsummon the monk instead of...
keep the blocker.
Exactly.
The blocker.
And then guess what Rick's Jace can do? Rick's Jace can negative, flashback the Jeskai Charm, and kill the Jace.
Yep.
So here...
Jeskai Charm is huge, isn't it?
Jeskai Charm is going to do the exact same thing that happened last time to the Nahiri. He can flashback the Jeskai Charm, 4 damage to the Jace, and swing to finish it off with the 1/1.
Yeah, so the Hangerback Walker is very important to block.
But the Hangerback Walker might not survive if he can pump the creature up enough, the prowess monk enough.
Yep, very true. So I would definitely still love to be behind a wall of little walking 1/1 or flying 1/1 constructs and have a Jason Mind Sculptor on 5. That's a lovely spot to be in, but I don't think the Jason Mind Sculptor is long for this world when you've got so much burn in Rick Borgas' deck.
No, some people think Jace is amazing, so they need to keep it alive, but it's not really amazing if you're plussing it instead of brainstorming.
Yes.
And once you get one brainstorm, and they're investing cards to try to kill it, then, it might not be ideal, but you've actually got card advantage out of that. So
from memory, I think I saw from the Treasure Cruise, Drew did draw Jace on the 3rd draw, but the other 2 draws were land, so that's not ideal.
Definitely not.
But what you can do is draw one of the fetch lands, say, and then brainstorm and fetch and shuffle away some of those lands. But we'll see what happens. His hand is still full, so I know if I'm in Rick's position, I'd be worried that there's some kind of interaction coming, like a Path to Exile on that monk token.
Yeah, there we go. And unfortunately, the do you get it when it leaves play, or is it just when it gets destroyed? Because I don't think he's going to get his 1/1s.
No.
I think he might have tapped it to get an extra life from Swords to Plowshares.
Well, it's a non-zero benefit to get an additional life point there when you're against a deck that is essentially focused around swarming, time walking, and trying to kill you that way.
Yeah, and there we go. The prowess swinging for 3.
Yep.
And Jeskai Charm, just as I said, flashback killing the Jace, so Jace didn't get a brainstorm through.
No, and yeah, the Jace just fate sealed, so essentially it just got killed by a flashback spell, which is worth nothing, and a monk, which is worth nothing. So it's very rough to be in Drew's position as having tried so hard to draw yourself back into the game and not being able to get there. But here we go. We're attacking with the Wandering Fumarole to kill Jace, Vryn's Prodigy.
He doesn't have tricks, does he? Surely not.
No, not when you're just tapped out. Surely.
Can't imagine.
There's no snuff outs in these colours. But Wandering Fumarole, for those at home, is a 1/4 or a 4/1. You can spend 0 mana to switch its power and toughness. So it's really good at being exactly what it wanted it to be, which is either a really good blocker or a really strong Planeswalker killer.
Has Rick still got Manamorphose in hand? Is that
He does.
revealed in hand?
That is a revealed
So he's just
Manamorphose.
holding on to that to get a nice little prowess?
Yeah, that's right. And so here, basically, they're down Jaces. Neither of them has a Jace, which is nice to be. And Rick actually has basically only one unknown card in hand. And whilst Drew did draw a lot of cards, we know there are lots of lands, and there's a Blightsteel Colossus in his hand, which is really ugly to have.
Yeah.
The Brainstorm is gone. Jace is gone, so he can't Brainstorm it back. So there's basically no way to put it back in his deck.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. The Nahiri as well is being exiled, is that right?
Yes, the Nahiri's gone,
So there's another-
the Jace is gone, the
I think
Brainstorm.
Dak, he could discard it with Dak, but...
Dak Faden's a nice out. So yeah, there are ways to get it back in his
But
deck
yeah,
from discard. But
the thing is,
it's
even
almost
if you can eventually get it back, right now, it's clogging up your hand.
given that Rick has now cast a stream of spells, Manamorphose into Serum Visions, and now suspended Ancestral Vision, he's been able to power up that Monk token to attack for 4.
Mm. The other cool thing with Prowess you can do with Sensei's Divining Top, Rick's not doing it now. I'm not going to say he's misplaying because he might be keeping up his mana, but you can be activating that Sensei's Divining Top, drawing it the next turn, and casting it. Only costs you 1 mana, and you get a Prowess token. Maybe not at that stage yet, because
he might have a counterspell.
Drew's on quite a lot of life, so I think it's totally fair enough to keep up counterspell, or even threaten counterspell. Gosh darn it, you don't need to keep it up. You can just scare it.
The other worry is when your opponent has so many cards in hand. We know it's land and Blightsteel, but when your opponent has that many cards, you really don't want to have to cast your top again to get it countered. So here's Mystical Tutor for 2 points, I believe. It gets countered by Mental Misstep. Oh, that's rough. That's rough.
Yeah, Drew definitely wanted some gas there.
That's where you're going. I wish I spent my 2 points on Dig Through Time.
Yeah, Dig Through Time would have been pretty nice there, but not to be.
I like the idea of Mystical Tutor doing some miracle shenanigans, though, putting an Entreat the Angels on top. And that
is cool.
It's pretty snazzy. But here we come in with our 4/1 because he flipped the power and toughness again. And basically Drew's saying, well, I'm going to win by this 4/1 land that you're going to have great difficulty dealing with until you block with your Monk. Like, you're going to have to block with your Monk at some point because I'm going to be able to get your life total down faster than you can get me down with that Monk.
That Monk is still doing work. It's a free Monk. Keep that in mind, guys. It's completely free. So yeah, the Monk can block, and the Monk can even forcibly trade. Now, of course, you can switch it back to a 1/4, but now if Reek tries to prowess it, it won't be trading at all. So really interesting. Learning a lot, I think, through this match, seeing these two sort of off-center control decks again. Wouldn't call
it. They're very unique. They've got unique takes on the whole control archetype in Highlander, which is really fun to see. And whilst Rick has the inevitability here with the Ancestral Visions ticking down every turn, here we go. We have Abeyance.
Abeyance?
Yeah, Abeyance. Those in the chat can tell us exactly how you pronounce that one, whether it's Abeyance or Abeyance.
Please type in the comments how to pronounce Abeyance.
How do we pronounce Abeyance? So that's until the end of the turn, a particular player, obviously your opponent, can't cast instant or sorcery spells, and then that player also can't activate abilities that aren't mana abilities.
So it's like a silence, but costs 1 more and you get to draw a card. I think it's actually a really good card. I like it a lot.
It's a bit of silence, but it's
quite
specifically
good in,
for instant or sorcery spells.
Oh, okay. Well, it's quite good in combo decks.
It's good for Storm and that kind of thing to basically say, no, you can't. I think what they're now looking up at the moment is Drew is trying to use this to prevent the Ancestral Visions counter to go on, to come off. But I'm afraid that, from my knowledge of the game at least, That's not an activated ability. It's
No,
a
it's
triggered
triggered.
ability.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Nothing's really going to happen here. He's basically just trying to time walk his opponent from casting instant and sorcery spells.
Well, could you do it in upkeep, or would it have already been on the stack?
Well, it doesn't matter because that's a triggered ability. So,
But I mean, when the visions eventually does resolve.
Oh, I see what
can
you
you
mean.
do it with the visions on the stack?
Well, the visions itself, placing it onto the stack is a triggered ability. It's not an activated ability. You don't do anything to activate ancestral visions.
But as far as the target player cannot play sorceries.
I see what you mean. So yeah, you probably can't.
So maybe you should have waited.
Here we go. Yeah. So yeah, we tick down one counter, and I believe they're just kind of rewinding here to see exactly which phase they're in. But yeah, draw for the turn, and now Rick has to make the decision. I can attack with my monk a couple more times, but what's going to happen? Am I going to be able to burn my opponent out? Is that 4/1 and eventually 1/4 blocker going to become a thing? Here, I think it's perfectly fine to beat for 1 with that token, even though it's only 1, because your opponent needs to have 2 burn spells to kill you, both the Wandering Fumarole plus 2 burn spells, and that's unlikely. But the following turn, you would hold your monk back just in case.
Well, it depends what. I mean, maybe Rick drew any instant speed spell, and that means he can block and pump the token,
which doesn't do anything.
Which means, well, it stops. It means the fumarole has to turn to a 1/4 to keep itself alive.
It saves life, but saving life seems bad.
I don't think it's that bad.
Timely reinforcement. So, if your opponent controls more creatures than you, you get 3 dudes. If your opponent has more life than you, you get 6 life. So, in this instance, it's basically a what's it called? Triplicate spirits.
It's spectral procession.
Spectral procession. That's
but not flying. That's not bad.
Alright, and activate that Wandering Fumarole. In it comes again. And here we go, assigning a blocker, but he's looking with the top first to see if he can find any other things. Finding something like a Lightning Helix here would be lovely. Yeah, that'd be the kind of thing you want to level at that Wandering Fumarole when you block it with your monk token. But, because he doesn't, not many ways for him to get rid of it, except for, Swords of Plowshares. But he's already used his Swords of Plowshares on the Hangerback Walker.
Yeah, he'd surely have
activate Sensei's Divining Top.
Have a Helix. I think he's got a Helix in his deck. Yeah.
Some kind of bird spell. Here we go. So, yeah, there we go. So he's got a young Pyromancer, and here he's really trying to buy time until the Ancestral Visions goes on the stack. Once he gets to play the Ancestral Visions, he will pull ahead. That's the plan.
Yeah, I think for sure he'll definitely win if he gets to resolve Visions, because all he needs to do is survive. Yeah, all he needs to do is survive with the Pyro.
But there's 2 man lands here, and him being
forced to block
with
the Pyro.
Yeah, when your opponent plays a Steam Vents untapped and he's got 9 mana out, that's usually a bad sign that things are not going to go your way.
What did Oh, of course he got. I was about to say, what did he mystical tutor for? What do you think he would have mystical tutored for?
In that instance, I'd have to take a quick look at his deck list.
So I think his Cruise has already been used, and if Entreat the Angels has already been used.
Yeah, if Entreat's not in the deck, then that's harder. But if Entreat is, I'd 100% cast my
Entreat and Cruise seem the 2 big ones, and they'd already be gone. So
2 man lands are activated. 2 man lands activated and swinging in.
Yeah, this could be game unless Okay, so we've got Snappy Swords.
I would normally recognise that a Snapcaster Mage, but I'm afraid that it's the incorrect art.
Oh no, he's done it again.
So
you've only gone and done it, Rick.
This is pretty rough here. Snapcaster Mage comes out in order to allow Swords to Plowshares to remove one of those man lands, and at the same time he's triggering Prowess and making a 1/1 elemental token from the Pyromancer. He gets to kill the double striking 2/1.
I think that's good because he's going to have a lot of 1/1s, and the double strike is going to be able to always first strike them out. So I think that's fair enough. He might be able to get 4 damage in on the Fumarole and eventually trade with
Fumarole. That's the trick.
There's no trick to it.
Very hard.
It's just a simple trick.
Let's see.
What he needs is a 2/2. So I reckon maybe block the Prowess guy on the Fumarole.
So you you don't Swords to Plowshares Ephemeral so that you can
I
put
agree
2
with-
tokens on the 2/1 double strike?
I agree with swordsing the double striker.
I don't know.
I think.
Because it's very hard to kill a 4/1 1/4.
Is
But
it?
it's easy to kill a 2/1
He
double
could
strike.
just double
Put
block it
2
right now. He could double block and kill that funeral, and all he'd lose is snap.
But he could flip it the other way.
Flip it the other way and trade. Yeah,
So it's very hard to get
But-
rid of it.
but I guess. But
So
then you just need to produce 1/1s to chump it all day.
It's easier said than done when you're on a 4.
Well,
And
can't you
you
just
have
block
less-
with the
less
mental?
cards.
You can just block with the mental token, and then it doesn't do anything.
But
As
your
long as the
opponent has
mental-
100% control over what they want to do. They can flip it. And here we go.
That's pretty good.
This is probably one of the best things you could cast after your opponent taps out and you have some blockers still around on the battlefield. Was the Ancestral Visions trigger forgotten?
Oh, nearly. I think it might have been.
Because it's been on 2 for a while.
And he's brainstormed.
We've
there.
moved a little bit too far from the point of rewinding that and putting that on the stack, because your opponent will say, no, I'm fine with that not being on the stack. That trigger.
Oh.
And Gush is lovely when you got a young Pyromancer up.
Yeah, but he pretty now I think Rick's, even with that forgetting of the visions, I think Rick's officially pulled ahead.
It's pulling ahead here. I had a lovely game with Rick after this particular one. Another match. We were both undefeated, so we played, and in round 4, I think it was, and I blood mooned him, and he was forced to later on down the track Gush to return an island, and that's right, back to basics, Tim. And he had to Gush to return an island, to replay an island, to make it untapped so that he could play Jason Mind Sculptor, and then I dazed it.
Wow.
It's a great game. Great game. Very, very one-sided for me, I'm afraid, but that's what happens when you play Blood Moon and other people don't have basic lands or enough basic lands.
Yeah, well,
so he's pulled ahead here with the young
He has
Pyromancer
pulled ahead.
token, another token from Monks.
His tokens are just going to get there. He's on a pretty small amount of life. The only way I think Drew gets it is
Imprisoned on the Moon.
Imprisoned on the Moon. That's the last place I want to be.
That is, yeah, I mean, of all the places you could be.
Jace might be a powerful wizard, but even
when he's on the moon, all he can do is tap for colours.
What's he going to do?
And, he could be under a ring of oblivion. He could be exiled by the will of the council. But today, he's on the moon.
He's on the moon.
He's not over the moon. That's a lot better. When you're on the moon, you just sit there tapping for colours.
I don't think I've ever seen this card before. What does it do?
It says I'm playable only in standard. Some other nondescript text. But basically, it's kind of an oblivion ring that also targets lands, which is pretty cool, kind of, and turns them basically into a land that taps for colourless, kind of. It becomes what it does. It's a big downside. It enables your opponent's Eldrazi, because right now. Oh no, sorry. He has a talisman, so he can still cast Thought Not Seer. But usually, your opponent wouldn't be able to cast Thought Not Seer. But imprisoning them on the moon allows them.
Well, you can
summon the
imprison
Eldrazi
on the moon your own.
Look at this. I've never seen Jace the Mind Sculptor tap sideways before, but it's happening.
You can imprison on the moon.
Look at that. Jace the Mind Sculptor turn sideways and activate Sensei's Dividing Shot. I mean, you've seen it here. First time for everything.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go ahead and just say it. I'm sorry, Drew, but Will of the Council is just a better card.
Yeah,
than
Council's
that.
Judgment.
Council's Judgment.
Council's Judgment, sweet. But I do appreciate the fact that he's thought of a card that can actually target lands. And this format has very strong lands. So targeting a Guy's Cradle and turning it off it's not something to shy away from. There are other applications to imprison things in the moon.
The one mana from Jace isn't doing a whole lot, so it's essentially switch Jace off.
Yeah, it's done work. And Nahiri, so
no, it's Narset, mate.
Narset, that's right. They all begin with N, and
they're all
they're white. They got white
in
them. All right, so he's Nahiri lets you plus to flip the top card of your library. If it's an instant or sorcery, you get to put in your hand, something like that, or non-creature, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I just remember playing it in Vintage, and it just wasn't good enough.
Yeah, look, I think what's really good about it is that it comes in with 7 counters, so it's really hard to kill. I mean, at this point, it's got more life than Rick does, so That Narset is going to be around for the rest of the game.
That feeling when your Planeswalker pals are stronger than you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about Jace anymore, but...
No, Jace taps for mana, and that's something that Rick himself cannot do.
Yeah, Jace
He cannot tap himself for mana.
Going to be eating some cheese for the rest of the game.
I think he's going to be sitting behind a top. I think that top is spinning on the moon. So we have 4 mana being tapped by Drew. They're on 3 and 4. This is a very... I would say it's a very tight game, but it's been a very swingy game. I'll correct that.
Swingy.
It's swingy either side.
That.
Big
old if that Entreat the Angels was still here.
Oh,
imagine Entreat the Angels here.
Absolutely. So Cryptic Command is not something to shy away from here. So what it can do is tap the team and allow him to get in for 4, which is pretty huge. Unless there's some kind of interaction that Rick has. This will be a lethal swing from the Wandering Fumarole, the guy that we laughed at.
We shouldn't have laughed at him.
No.
Wait, I never laughed at Fumarole.
Well, I said we should path that guy, Swords of Plowshares that guy,
mate.
but technically the 2/1 double strike does the same thing. they both attack for 4. But here we go. Activating Sensei's Divining Top to draw a card. Hopefully it's something interactive. That's what he's thinking. Do I have a Vapor Snag still in my deck? 1 mana. Maybe
he's
not
got
1
Daze,
mana.
doesn't he? He's not going to do anything.
Daze to target the Cryptic Command to return a land to make a token.
Okay.
Still, the token will be tapped, I'm afraid. But
yeah, why not do it after the Cryptic resolves?
Because it doesn't have a target. Daze needs to target something. And this is a Disrupt.
Counter unless you...
What? Is it Disrupt?
Change the target of target?
I remember playing this in high school.
So he could have... in high school?
Yeah.
Why?
Around the table, around the kitchen table.
Okay,
table,
so it's Daze, draw a card.
Yeah, it's basically counter... Yeah, Daze or... So, was that it?
Was it a scoopy?
It's a scoop, because... You know what's rough? That Ancestral Visions is on 1 counter.
Rough as guts, yep. Rick Borgas. You're going to be kicking yourself when you watch this, mate.
Kicking and jeeking. We're going to go on to game 2. So, obviously their sideboards are vastly different, but one thing to note is that Drew has Cunning Wish in his deck, and so he has 10 cards in his sideboard dedicated to being instant. So some of them are really, really good, but some of them aren't quite as good when you need to bring them in for actual cards after sideboard. So I would say that post-sideboard favours Rick, just in terms of card quality. However, the types of cards that are being brought in here are probably cheap interactive cards. Cheap mana. Cryptic Commands very rarely do what they did in this game, because they usually get countered by Pyroblast in game 2. So in this one, I see Drew bringing in Forked Bolt, because it can usually kill a couple of tokens, that kind of thing. But it's still pretty iffy. I mean, you'd rather have Supreme Verdict, which he also has, which is nice. But aside from that, the rest of his sideboard are Cunning Wish packages. So it's going to be tricky for him to find the pure card quality to actually pull through in this match.
Do you think he ever leaves stuff like Smelt in his sideboard so that he can Cunning Wish for it? Or is that just silly? You might as well just put the Smelt in.
If I'm playing against Mud, I'll bring that Smelt in. I want to smelt everything.
You gotta smelt it up.
Smelt, that's right. And on Rick's side, his sideboard has very, very powerful swingy cards that allow him to pull ahead once he's stabilized, like Batterskull. He also has Council's Judgment, which is really good against opposing Planeswalker decks, to just have an answer to Planeswalkers. He doesn't have Imprison on the Moon, I'm afraid. Sorry to burst your bubble, but he's got Council's Judgment, which is debatable which one's better. The other cards he has are things like Orjutai's Command, which is normally something you wouldn't see. It's not a particularly good card. It's like a really, really, really bad Cryptic Command. However, in specifically Rick's list, and pretty much only Rick's list, it's a powerhouse. It's really good. It allows him to make, again, how we were talking earlier about anthems, and how in his deck, when his deck goes wide, it's really, really strong. And Orjutai's Command allows him to get, Mental Misstep, So he's only taking out 3 cards. Bringing in 3 cards. Bringing in 3 cards? Taking out 3 cards. Yeah, he looks like he's taking
both, right?
Wow. Oh no, but he had the cards he was bringing in and the cards he was taking out. So he was taking out timely reinforcements and bringing in things like Flusterstorm and Mental Misstep and that kind of stuff. So he has got the cheap interactive spells. But on the topic of Audrey's command, it lets him. No, so I'm completely wrong here.
You're thinking of Jeskai Ascendancy, right?
I'm thinking of the one where you give all your creatures +1/+1. Jeskai Charm. Oh, okay. There you go.
Blew it.
So,
Charm is
remember
still
that
good,
card
though.
that we were talking about, how I said it's really good as an Anthem effect, and now I'm saying in the sideboard you're bringing in another Anthem effect? I actually meant exactly the same card that he has in his main deck for the entire game, that he even played in Game 1.
Ojutai's command is bad cryptic command.
That's right. So Ojutai's command is the kind of card you bring in against mid-range, because it lets you grind. You can return a creature card with converted mana cost of 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, so returns a Young Pyromancer, and it will let you then draw a card, or it can let you, say, counter your opponent's, who's the big guy, Titania, and let you return a Young Pyromancer, or against the burn decks, it lets you counter a big 4-mana hasty finisher creature, red creature, and gain 4 life. So it's got some things here, but really the time you bring it in is against mid-range. I don't know if I wouldn't bring it in against control because I take out Cryptic Command against control because it gets countered by Pyroblast. But I assume that's in there for mid-range.
Yeah, and it looks like it's a very quick mulligan from Drew.
Well, that's interesting. So a couple of things to see here are things that you typically see in the main deck that are in Rick's sideboard. So in his sideboard, he's got Seeker of the Way, and here's the stuff that's going out. No, that's his hand. Okay, I thought, why are you taking those things out? This is his hand. Let's correct that. So he's got 2 lands and some white spells. So in Rick's sideboard, he's got cards typically in the main deck like Dak Faden and Seeker of the Way. So I assume that he's just not found enough space in his main deck, and he finds that he wants to be pre-boarded against certain decks, and so he has some more niche cards in the main, but he keeps those flexible cards on the side, rather than the other way around. It just depends on what the meta read is.
Seeker of the Way could be anti-burn, but you can imagine that surely Cool Firewalker is just better, right?
Yeah, Seeker of the Way is going to get eaten. Oh, here we go. So we got some land, Brainstorm. It's lovely to see a hand with Brainstorm and land, but when your basic land is basic plains, and then your fetch land is the blue source, it doesn't look as great. Oh, here we go. So he's got a Marsh Flat, so he's able to still cast Brainstorm and be able to fetch away things. So how long do you hold your Brainstorm for? I mean, in this instance, when you're not under pressure.
Start this again, Sarv.
Yes.
Brainstorm.
Look, Drew's doing exactly what I like. I like to see this. I like the patience. I want to see him hold that Brainstorm for as long as possible. All right. And obviously not until you're dead, but when you're in this kind of matchup, you're in this kind of control.
If you're
mirror,
in this matchup,
wait,
for sure, you
wait. And wait.
Yep. When you're playing against, faster decks,
burn. You just got to cast
or
what
something.
You
You gotta get it out there, because otherwise it's just stuck in your hand. So you got to get it out there, see if you can find gas, or obviously if you're mana screwed and you're digging for something specific, then you can Brainstorm. But no, I definitely think if there's no rush, then you should definitely always be patient. On the other hand, when you're in Rick's side, he wants to cast things like Thought Scour really early and quick, and he wants to use them to trigger creatures. So unfortunately, we saw tipping into his graveyard was Jason Mind Sculptor, so his Thought Scour targeting himself did lose 1 point. But I don't think he minds. He's just going to try and close out the game as quickly as possible with this Young Pyromancer. No, that's exactly right. And, another time you want to be brainstorming is when you've got a Young Pyromancer out. Brainstorm at the end of the turn with an active fetch. But the question here is your hand that bad? Because his hand looks quite good. Point. Here we go. He's doing Bolt. I think that's correct. It's a really good point you make, Sap. A lot of people brainstorm when their hand's already good, and brainstorm's really good for making a bad hand good, so... If your hand's already good, there's no real need to brainstorm. True. Now he needs to brainstorm because his hand is basic plains, basic mountain. And there's 2 cards snap straight away you're going to be putting away on the top of your library when you've got more land that you're probably going to be drawing off the brainstorm anyway. So here we go. Brainstorm when they're tapped out. Very nice.
1, 2. That's a... See, there's more land, more mana sources there. That one there, the card that went in there next to 2 lands was a Phyrexian Furnace, I believe it is.
Yeah, I had to look this one up.
Old school.
It's sort of like Relic of Progenitus. And he actually runs it in the main board. So it's 1 mana artifact. You tap it to remove the bottom card of target player's graveyard from the game, unlike Relic, which is any card of their choice. So I guess it's slightly better in that your opponent doesn't have a choice. And you pay 1 to sack it and draw a card, but you remove only 1 card in a graveyard from the game. And there it is there, not all cards. So the difference between that and Relic is it only hits 1 card when it sacrifices, but it of course leaves your graveyard out of it. So I guess it's often played if you enjoy having your own graveyard.
Clearly,
large.
he values his graveyard
And he's
more
got
than
Treasure
the power
Cruise.
of he values his graveyard more than the brute power of a relic.
Yeah, and I guess he's hoping that someone will try to do a Snapcaster or Eternal Witness and target something specific, or even a Kitchen Finks dying or something, and then he gets to sack it and target that thing, much like a surgical extraction.
So here he's shocking with the Hallowed Fountain. That's because he's already got Tundra out, and that's so that he can keep a mana open to actually activate his Phyrexian Furnace, which will remove a particular card. So turning off Snapcaster Mage, that kind of thing.
Interesting artwork on Phyrexian Furnace.
So what he's doing is, look it up. There's a guy, and he's tossing some mechanical parts into a really, really badly drawn fire.
Oh, that's a fire. I thought that was a banner.
Oh, is it? Well, if neither of us can tell what it is, it's probably bad art.
I thought it was a microphone.
Here's the microphone. Here's Gutter Snipe. So Gutter Snipe is like another kind of young Pyromancer effect where you get to trigger off instants and sorceries, but instead of making tokens, he deals 2 damage to a player.
It's a bad card. It beat me the last time I played Rick.
Yeah, that's always the way. It looks strange on paper, but Rick's deck, when it comes together, it will just ruffle stomp you because
if I had to
it
explain
goes so wide.
Rick's deck in one sentence, it would be, he plays Gutter Snipe. That's a bad card. I lost to it last time I played.
Yeah. So here, Drew's hand is pretty gas now. He's got a Snapcaster Mage in it. He's got an Azorius Signet. That's the one that taps for blue-white. And here we have Balance. Oh, it's like a 2 mana sorcery that destroys target Gutter Snipe, I guess.
Yeah,
and discard one
a hand?
card maybe.
Yeah.
I think they're about 1. That's not bad.
That's good.
Look, we've got 1. So basically, they're going to equalize to 4 cards. He loses Council Judgment, aka Imprison on the Moon.
Balance is good.
The white Imprison on the Moon, Council Judgment. And given that your hand is quite mana heavy, I think I play the no. Yeah, no. It just depends. Like I think I would still, because then I sacrifice the planes, but I get rid of one of his cards too.
So obviously, what Sarv is tossing up between is if he plays the land, then he's got less cards in his hand. So that would force Rick to discard an extra card. Of course, you have to sacrifice a land, so it's whether or not the land is better than the card.
Well, in here, because I know that he's got Treasure Cruise, so it should be okay. Oh, Mentor, here we go. We are on the field with a Mentor and triggered from Preordained. This is where you go, why did I cast Balance? Because that Mentor is going to run away with the game with so many tokens. Already starting off with 1 token is great. All he needs is a Daze or Force of Will or Gush or something in his hand that he can use to make a free.
If he had a Daze here, and that would be pretty brutal. It's going to be the similar story to last time.
Here's the Izzet Charm. It's actually the same as last time. Izzet Charm trying to target Mentor. If there's a Gush or something to save that off 1 prowess, it will be a blowout. But surely not. Oh! Yep, Izzet Charm instead targeting my token. And I get prowess.
Yep.
And I get another token. So the token dies, make another token, but prowess stops the Mentor from dying. This is really, really strong. You know, as much as he had to pitch a bad art Snapcaster, but it's a bad art, so it's okay to pitch it. It's basically worth less than the actual Snapcaster.
Well, I would pay 0 mana and discard 2 cards, or exile a Snap and discard a Misdirection to
get rid of that card. Just get rid of that.
Yeah,
Snapcaster
it's essentially a counterspell, right?
This is the correct island, though, on the left there. Very nice. I love that. That's my favourite one.
Get it together, Rick.
So, if Drew can capitalize off this by casting something, he's fingering a Jace Vryn's Prodigy in his hand. And I think now's the time. I mean, if now's not the time, if there ever was a time to play it, it'd be now because he's so far behind. You're not going to hold mana open to cast counter spells.
Okay,
Engineered Explosive. I think this is
enough.
fine. Yeah. Being able to just guaranteed kill the mentor the following turn, but usually in Vintage this is where you die. So you know, thankfully it's not Vintage. So Phyrexian Revoker.
Borgas with
Yep.
the Revoker. That's from
That's
sideboard
right.
as well. So why do you think Rick
Phyrexian
put that
Revoker
in?
turns off Engineered Explosives.
And there goes
it
his
turns
own
off other
Jace Vryn's Prodigy.
Planeswalkers. Yep, so Phyrexian Revoker, for those at home, it can name a non-land permanent and can turn off their activated abilities. And here it's turning off Engineered Explosives. So Engineered Explosives can't be sacrificed. And we're assuming can't be sacrificed to kill Monastery Mentor. And this is rough for Drew. He has to find a removal spell for that Revoker before he can kill the Mentor. And by that time, he's probably going to be dead.
Yeah, look, Drew's got his own Jace, but
It's too slow.
Rix will be activating first, of course. So.
And to my knowledge, Rick's graveyard is probably some action, quite a bit of action.
Does he have any cards in hand? I don't think he'll need it, but
no, he just needs to flashback a Preordain from the graveyard.
That's right. Flashback Preordain, and suddenly you're set off, aren't you? It's as simple as that. And that's what we mean by the mentor doesn't force you to work hard. Just need to work.
Yeah, that's it.
Don't need to work smarter, work hard.
Work. Here we come, Snapcaster Mage with the correct art. I can respect that. And here we go, we're flashing back the Is It charm and trying to go for... Okay, yep, so he's respecting the fact that once Jace flips, it's probably game over.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's game over either way.
Yes,
he definitely needed to kill both the Jace and the Mentor that turn.
And as you can see, Monastery Mentor has done so much work. It's just a brilliant card. So swings with everything and just say, or swings with everything but Revoker.
Yeah, I think swings with everything but Revoker seems correct.
Because there's no way you block Monastery Mentor. You know they got a Prowess trigger. You always assume they got a Prowess trigger.
I don't know.
You've only got one card in hand.
You don't want to lose the match just because they call you bluff, you know.
That's right. I'm big on bluffing, so I usually don't even hesitate. I don't even think about it. I just jam all those creatures straight in, and then they go, "Oh no, he's so confident." My hand lands 50% of the time. For those at home.
Now we know stuff. Now we know. And there's the Jace. Could be a little bit too late, but he's got a lot of cards in hand, Drew.
Yeah,
you know what are they?
Well,
there's got to be something.
Yeah, they're not obviously not lands because he's not playing lands. So here we go.
Click.
Out comes something. Click. Yep, this is a typical play. When the draw phase, let's just take away something. Ooh, so here do you take away the Gitaxian probe or not? Because the probe gets whatever you look at.
I think yes, you do because it would
it's
trigger
one
the
less
mentor.
trigger.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's one less trigger for the mentor.
So you take the probe just and hope they just brick this card because they would have drawn this card anyway.
Yeah.
And you just cross your fingers here. So out of time walk.
It's actually not amazing here, but
it would imagine the probe.
Yeah.
Probe into time walk.
Probe time walk.
Disgusting. That would have been an extra token and an extra token and an extra turn. Yep. Here we go. So you crash in with.
Crashing with the token.
Yeah. You got no hand. You can't bluff with no
now
hand.
the engineered, you could even block. I reckon you could block that with a click. Because the engine, maybe.
There's a point at which Rick on this turn draws a spell and then attacks with everything.
But Drew, I think Drew needed a block there with something because.
Well, what else are you going to do? You got to block.
Exactly. If you're not going to swing, then you got to block. Otherwise, your creatures aren't worth anything.
Yeah. Manamorphose, again, another cantrip. This is very important to be able to, just trigger tokens and prowess and draw cards. If this is another... So, what's going on here? There's a bit of a pause.
Is he thinking about what mana he wants?
Yes, he has to declare the colours of mana first. So he's probably going like a blue-red or something. Let's see what happens. And looks like if he's going to attack phase, that's obviously not a sorcery speed spell. So he's just imagine attacking with that mentor. Here we go. Attack with it because it's already got one prowess trigger, right? And bluff that card is something. Because you've already got 3 tokens, yeah?
Yeah, you've got a lot of tokens.
And guess what? When you attack and he has to block the mentor, it makes engineered explosives useless. So you just attack with everything.
Yeah, this is some neck level, but
That's in my
Drew will be
world.
hesitant to blow the engineered if he's got the click it as well.
It. In my world, I attack with everything because if he kills the Revoker, he has to activate the thing, which means your Monastery Mentor is getting through. But if he doesn't if he blocks the Mentor and lets the Revoker through, that means the engineered explosives are useless.
And Drew's on a scary amount of life where one Jeskai charm will do it, right? Jeskai charm off the top wins.
And explosives kills your own click. So
now,
there's like I would just jam there with everything, but that's me. when my opponent's on 7.
The other thing is
I got one bluff card in hand.
Yeah. The other thing about blocking with click there is now then you're guaranteed to fill up your graveyard for Jace.
Yeah, this is a true thing, true fact. So, do you think that Rick intentionally didn't attack with multiple things because he didn't want to allow the Jace to trigger? I don't think that. I think that's a bit extreme, but
a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I don't know. Given I had one prowess trigger, I would attack with everything because that's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 damage, and 2 or 3 things have to be blocked, and then you still have monk tokens the following swing back.
I think he's got a preordain in hand. He's going to fire that off surely.
Yeah.
Get a look, fill the graveyard up.
Flip Jace. Isochron, Scepter, and a basic Island. Island goes to the bottom. Scepter probably goes to the bottom as well because it's a bad card.
Yeah, Scepter not...
Or Scepter went to the bottom, kept Island. So he obviously needs the Island to cast something else.
The problem with Scepter, in my view, is it's just a bit risky. It can be so powerful, especially if you're running Mana Drain or Balance or something like that on it. But, wow. But the problem is if you cast the Scepter and then someone Abrupt Decays it, you're actually losing card advantage.
In this format, the number of times that you find that Vidalcan Shackles gets putrefied or Abrupt Decayed, it's really, really difficult to get some kind of engine like that online. So,
and the last thing you want to do is lose card advantage. If you just cast it and trade 1 for 1, then you say, I'm playing control. I'm happy to trade 1 for 1. But if whatever card you're pitching to it, now you lose. Well, if it's that good that you wanted to exile it to Isochron, and then the Isochron gets destroyed, you've lost that card. So.
It's okay when you have 4 mana out and you play it and imprint and then activate it. So then when it does die, you've already Lightning Helix one of their creatures or something with it.
That's very true, so yeah.
Imprison on the Moon. Here we go.
Get imprison. What's he imprisoning?
He's imprisoning the Phyrexian Revoker that was naming Engineered Explosives. And can you see now why I was all in on the attack last time?
Yeah, but now he blows it in the imprison.
Loses the click.
So now he's got a Revoker to name Jace. Does he? Or does it stay? No, it's still there.
No, it still sticks around.
So it's still there naming Engineered Explosives.
No, it loses all abilities, doesn't it?
No, because the 3 mana enchantments died from Engineered.
Okay, got it. Right, yeah, I was a bit slow on the uptake there. Then it comes back in again. It never left play, so
it never left play, so it's just naming Engineered.
It's naming an irrelevant card then. Alright. Still, I'd still rather be swinging back with 2 monk tokens with prowess and a 2-1, sorry.
Well, the 2-1
Oh, one of the monk tokens is smaller because of Jace Friend's Prodigy, but...
The 2-1 is going to be hyper relevant, isn't it? The Revoker.
Revoker just...
Which goes back to Will of the Council, I think, being better than the Deserted on the Moon.
Deserted on the Moon. Imprisoned on the Moon.
What's the difference, really? Being deserted or being imprisoned?
Yeah, this is true. Maybe Drew doesn't like the Council's Judgment because it's double white. That's my guess. And Imprisoned on the Moon is blue and his deck's primarily blue.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it hits lands, as you say.
And Noxious Revival puts Time Walk back on the top of the library.
Yeah.
with a prowess trigger on one of those monks, and
It's got to be game
yeah,
if he resolves that time walk.
that's it.
What's that? What's that he just did, Drew?
So
That he drew.
what did Drew draw?
That he drew.
Well, he's casting Treasure Cruise.
It's pretty good.
Flashback. Very nice. And you get to draw 3 cards.
I like that, Drew. Land.
That's a lot. He's drawn a lot of land
He
this
has
game,
drawn
I
a
have
lot
to
of
say.
land, it's a shame.
He's only running
What's the
23 or
last
something.
one? Was that Hydroblast?
That's hard to see. That's right. We'll see very shortly. He's got to have some kind of way to deal with some monks in the 2-1. Otherwise, it's going to be game over.
I think it is Fizzleflom.
Fizzleflom. One of Cameron Bird's favourite counterspells. So we have... Drew has 23 land and 1 Azorius Signet. Yeah, it's a pretty standard number for control decks. It's just kind of flooding out a little bit. Scrabbling Claws. That's right. Yep. So it's another
sort of Relic of Progenitor
not
style.
as good relic, but doesn't exile your own graveyard when it pops.
And that's main board as well, so.
Yeah, so I think he maybe has played a lot against Cameron Bird's deck, and he just doesn't want to lose to Reanimator, because Cameron Bird has been a mainstay of the Highlander tournaments here, and has been rocking that Reanimator deck since the beginning of time. So it's possible that he has it in for Cameron.
Yeah, it's a shame that there's the handshake. It's a shame that Scrubbing Claws didn't draw anything good either.
Yeah, so that's a 1-1 result, I assume? 1-1 draw? Because, was it? Who won first game? Okay, tell us in the chat who won first game. It was actually quite long. Now we can't remember. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. We will see you in round 4.
See you guys.